Are we really approaching the end times mentioned in the scriptures? In Matthew 24, Jesus not only addresses this question, but also gives us a deeply complex and mysterious view of what we can expect as these days draw near. This chapter, filled with profound symbolism and serious warnings, has been a subject of fascination, study, and at times concern among scholars and devotees throughout the centuries. Today, let's dive deep into these prophecies, seeking to unravel and understand the true intentions behind Jesus' words about the signs preceding his glorious return. Join us on this exciting and revealing exploration through time and Christ's teachings, as we not only try to anticipate the future, but also understand how these ancient truths continue to resonate and impact our lives today. Are you ready to open your mind and heart? Let's discover the secrets held in this enigmatic chapter and understand what it really means to live on the threshold of eternity. Picture this scene. Jesus, in a solemn and meaningful gesture, moves away from the Temple of Jerusalem, an imposing and majestic structure that had stood for centuries as a pillar of Jewish faith and identity. His gaze, perhaps melancholic, perhaps resolute, follows the stone lines of this building as he moves away, not only physically, but symbolically marking the end of an era. This dramatic farewell, narrated in Matthew 24, transcends the simple act of moving from one place to another. It represents a significant break with the past. As Jesus walks towards the Mount of Olives, his path seems to draw an invisible line between the old and the new. This route is not just a physical path, but a potent symbol of Jesus' rejection by the religious leaders of his time and the break with practices and beliefs he considered distorted or corrupted. More than that, this act of departure foresees the physical destruction of the temple, an event that would not only dismantle an impressive architectural feat, but also shake the spiritual and political foundations of Jerusalem. Jesus' prediction about the temple's fate serves as a foretelling of an even deeper transformation. The shift from the concept of a sacred place made of stone and mortar to a spiritual temple, built in the hearts and souls of the faithful. Jesus proposes a new phase in the relationship between God and humanity, where true worship would not be confined to the decorated walls of a building, but spread through the spirit and faith of those who truly worship him, wherever they may be. This event not only signals the end of an era of worship centered on physical locations, but inaugurates an era where the true temple of God is a living, breathing collective of believers, a global community united by faith and not by geographical proximity to a holy place. Thus, Jesus' journey becomes a powerful archetype of detachment and renewal, an eternal lesson about how even the most enduring and seemingly eternal structures can be challenged and transformed when new truths need to be established. This is a call to recognize that the divine presence is not limited to temples built by human hands, but resides in the true worship that flows from the hearts of those who sincerely seek God. When Jesus prophesied that not one stone will be left on another, referring to the Temple of Jerusalem, his words carried much more weight than the literal destruction of the building. This prediction, which would dramatically come true with the Roman destruction in 70 AD, transcends the historical event itself, as it also symbolizes a profound spiritual and theological renewal. By foreseeing this cataclysmic event, Jesus was not only warning his listeners about the imminent collapse of a physical and institutional structure, but also about a deeper and more universal truth. Cycles of endings and beginnings, death and rebirth are intrinsic aspects of the human experience and the dynamics of the spiritual universe. These words of Christ challenge us to recognize that often, true transformation requires the complete disintegration of old forms, whether they are physical structures, belief systems, or even personal life patterns. The destruction of the temple, therefore, can be seen not only as a material loss, but as an invitation to build something new, more aligned with authentic and lasting spiritual values. Jesus used the image of the total desolation of the temple to illustrate a crucial point. What we often perceive as the end may, in fact, be the prelude to a new beginning, full of opportunities for growth and deeper spirituality. By inviting us to look beyond the material and immediate, Jesus encourages us to seek a deeper understanding of divine plans, which often reveal themselves through rupture and renewal. This teaching is especially relevant in times of crisis or transition, when the familiar and comfortable are challenged or removed, forcing us to reconsider our priorities and most fundamental values. Therefore, Jesus' prophecy about the temple is not only a reminder of the impermanence of human constructions, but also a powerful metaphor for the spiritual journey of each individual. He encourages us to accept the processes of dismantling and loss as essential parts of the divine cycle of death and rebirth that ultimately leads us to a state of greater understanding, compassion, and connection with the divine. Thus, the words of Christ about the fate of the Temple of Jerusalem offer a profound insight into the transformative nature of true faith, which challenges us to be reborn from the ashes of our own broken structures and find beauty and truth in a new way of being, more rooted in the spiritual and the eternal. In the serene but significant conversation Jesus had with his disciples on the Mount of Olives, he unfolds a panorama of events that would mark the prelude to the final times. Jesus' words not only warn of physical signs like wars, persecutions, and deceptions, but also set these events as only the beginning of sorrows. This expression, filled with depth, suggests a period of intensifying adversities, but also serves as a reminder that these are merely the first steps of a much larger and more complex process. Jesus' teaching in this context is essentially dual. On one hand, it provides practical guidance to recognize the signs of the times. On the other, it is a profound spiritual exhortation. He calls us to a vigilance that transcends concern with impending calamities. More than ever, it is a call to resilience of faith and integrity of character in the midst of the tribulations that we will inevitably face. This kind of vigilance involves a full awareness of reality without succumbing to fear or despair, recognizing that every challenge is also an opportunity to strengthen our faith. True preparation for the final days, as taught by Christ, does not focus on futile attempts to predict dates or specific events. Instead, Jesus emphasizes the importance of how we live our lives in the present, our daily commitment to justice, compassion, and truth. This is a deeply transformative approach, inviting us to reflect on our daily choices and how those choices resonate in our spiritual journey and the impacts they have on others. This teaching not only prepares us to face external challenges, but also shapes us internally, forging a character that remains firm against adversity. By insisting that attention must be focused on developing a strong character and unwavering faith, Jesus reorients our priorities and perspectives, placing emphasis on the spiritual quality of our lives, which is eternal, in contrast to the temporary circumstances, which are transient. Therefore, the words of Jesus on the Mount of Olives are an invitation not just to understand the signs of the times, but more crucially, to live in a way that reflects a deep understanding of what truly matters. In doing so, he equips us not only to survive, but to thrive spiritually, regardless of what the final days may bring. In the profound and disturbing forecast of Jesus about the Great Tribulation, there is an intricate overlap of historical realities and spiritual dimensions. He predicts the siege of Jerusalem, an event marked by intense adversity and destruction, which would serve as a physical and visible prelude to a much broader and spiritual crisis. This tribulation is not limited to a place or time, but symbolizes a universal test of faith, a period that examines the resilience and depth of human spirituality in the face of extreme suffering. This period of great tribulation mentioned by Jesus is not just a recounting of future events, but also a metaphor for the internal and external struggles we all face in our spiritual journeys. Every challenge we encounter, every period of pain or loss, can be seen as a microcosm of this tribulation. Just as Jerusalem faced its days of trial, every individual faces moments that test their faith, their integrity, and their ability to persevere. However, in Jesus' words, there is an unmistakable message of hope and renewal. He assures that despite relentless adversity, the divine promise of salvation remains firm. This hope is not a mere temporary consolation, but a promise of deep and lasting transformation. Christ does not just promise that we will survive our tribulations. He promises that we will be transformed by them. This transformation is central to the message of the gospel. The tribulation, whether global or personal, is not the end of the story, but a gateway to a new reality. Through it, we are refined, purified, and prepared for a fuller and richer existence with God. The hope Jesus offers transcends the pages of history and seeps into the cracks of our everyday lives. It challenges us to look beyond immediate suffering to the spiritual rejuvenation and redemption that lie ahead. Therefore, the Great Tribulation, as described by Jesus, serves as a powerful reminder that our greatest trials can also be our most transformative moments. It encourages us to keep faith through the storms, trusting that, in the end, there will be a new morning of peace and renewal, where today's pain will give way to tomorrow's eternal joy. In this sense, the tribulation is not just a test, but a transition to an era of greater spiritual depth and communion with the divine. As we conclude our journey through Matthew 24, we are confronted with a powerful call to vigilance and faithfulness. Jesus concludes his instructions with penetrating parables that not only illustrate, but also underscore the imperative need for us to always be prepared. He calls us to face each day with the seriousness and reverence of one who lives their last moments, not in fear, but in vibrant and active faith. This call to preparedness goes beyond mere apprehension about the future. Jesus encourages us to cultivate a life of purpose and love, to live in such a way that every action, every decision reflects the depth and sincerity of our faith. True preparation for the end, whether the end of an era or the end of a life, is an existence marked by dedication to the values that Jesus lived and preached: unconditional love, unwavering justice, and a hope that transcends present circumstances. The final message of Matthew 24 is not just a warning about future events, but an invitation to personal transformation. Jesus challenges each of us to live with a vigilance that does not anxiously focus on the signs of the times, but that actively strives to shape the world around us through love, compassion, and justice. He asks us to treat each day as a precious opportunity to demonstrate the faith we profess through actions that speak as loudly as our words. As we share this video, we extend an invitation for others to join us on this ongoing journey of discovering and rediscovering life in light of Christ's words. May this study of Matthew 24 inspire us not only to be more informed about the scriptures, but deeply transformed by them. May we be motivated to live each day with the passion and purpose of those who truly believe in the promises of renewal and salvation that Jesus offered. This script, filled with engaging narratives and deep reflections, seeks not only to inform, but to inspire and engage the viewer in an ongoing dialogue about the moral and spiritual implications of the lessons in Matthew 24. It invites us to connect these biblical teachings with universal human experiences, exploring how they can be applied not just in times of crisis, but in all aspects of our daily lives. By doing so, we hope that every viewer finds not only guidance and hope, but also the courage to live a life that truly reflects the love and faith that Jesus exemplified. I hope you have found new perspectives and inspiration in Jesus' words about vigilance, preparation, and faith. These lessons are not just to contemplate, but to live daily, shaping our actions and choices with love, hope, and a firm purpose. If you felt touched by this message and believe in the importance of being spiritually prepared and active, no matter what the future holds, we invite you to show your support and reflection. Leave a like to help us reach more people with these valuable reflections. Comment Amen if these words resonated with you, and if you are committed to bringing this message into your life. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, consider subscribing so you won't miss future studies that can enrich your spiritual and personal journey even more. Together, we can form a community of faith and learning, sharing and growing in the deep truths we explored today. Thank you for being with us on this journey through Matthew 24, and may we continue to seek wisdom and inspiration on every page of the scriptures.